Here is a reading from Matthew. Then one of the 12, who was called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I betray him to you?" They paid him 30 pieces of silver, and from that moment he began to look for an opportunity to betray him.
Before we continue our reading, let me just say to you, Palm Sunday in the past 20 years or so has been doing double duty as Passion Sunday. Passion Sunday is an ancient tradition. It's so that you get to hear the whole story of Jesus' trial and crucifixion all in one place before Easter. You don't get Easter until you get the crucifixion. You don't appreciate the light until you see the darkness. And so listen to this. It's a long reading, but it's a powerful reading. And if a word or a phrase or an image from it catches your imagination, dwell with it. Let it speak to you, and let the Spirit speak into your life from these readings from the Gospel of Matthew. On the first day of the unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said to them, "Go into the city to a certain man, and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed, and began to say to him and to one another, "Surely not I. Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It should have been better for that one not to have been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." And he replied, "You have said so."
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it. He gave it to his disciples and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. For this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
Then Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." And Peter said to him, "Though all of them become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will never deny you." And so said all the disciples.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So you could not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again he went away for a second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and prayed for a third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, The hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with clubs and swords from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi." And he kissed him. And Jesus said to him, "Friend, what are you here to do? Do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say that it must happen in this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me, as though I were a criminal, a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so, but I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He be blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you're talking about." When he went out onto the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again, he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you also are one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
When morning came, all of the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. When Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." But they said, "What is it to us? See to it yourself." Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, he departed and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, It is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money." So after conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah, who said, "And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of the one on whom a price had been set, on whom some of the people of Israel had set a price, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me."
Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowds, anyone they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, saying, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of him in a dream." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of these two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." And Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked them, "Why? What evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be upon us and our children."
So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him, and they put a scarlet robe on him. And after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him, and they took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe, and they put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry the cross.
And they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull. They offered him wine to drink mixed with gall, but when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there, and they kept watch over him. Over his head they had put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him, if he wants to, for he said, 'I am God's son.'" The bandits, too, who were crucified with him, taunted him and said in the same way. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, this man is calling for Elijah. At once they ran and got him a sponge and filled it with sour wine and put it on a stick and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, wait, let's see if Elijah comes to save him.
Then Jesus cried, and with a loud voice, and breathed his last breath. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn into two, from top to bottom. The earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now, when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, truly, this man was God's son. Many women who were also there looking on from a distance, they had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided to him. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee.
When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea, named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. And he went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. He then rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there sitting opposite the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember what this impostor said while he was still alive, that after 3 days I will rise again. Therefore command the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise his disciples may go in and steal him away and tell the people, look, he has been raised from the dead, and the last deception will be made worse than the first. Pilate said to them, you have your guard of soldiers. Go, make it as secure as you can. So they went with the guard and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone. Holy wisdom, holy word. Thanks be to God. Matthew tells us, so they went and made the sepulchre secure by setting a guard. Think how jealously we guard death and its ways. Guns and bombs and warfare and power. My father-in-law says if somebody doesn't die within the first 5 minutes of the movie, I don't want to watch it. We worship death in our culture, don't we? We trust death. We believe in death. Death might be one of the few things we really deeply believe in. In many cases, we see death as the trustworthy solution. We think we understand death. It's one of the changeless facts of life, that it ends. And yet, if death is so powerful, why set a guard against life? Maybe it's death that we love and life that we fear. I'm reading the most wonderful book. It's about a curious friendship between a woman and a red fox. It's a memoir, it's a true story that she wrote about this relationship, how she, a woman out on the high deserts of Montana, I think they're deserts, begins to share her evenings with a friendly fox. And she feeds him garlic when he gets the mange, because the mange can kill an animal, and apparently garlic cures it. She rescues the fox from her neighbor's dogs, and she reads to the fox. And of course, the book she reads is The Little Prince, because in The Little Prince, a boy befriends a fox. She takes walks with the fox, and they have staring contests that she always loses. I was drawn to the book because I've got a red fox, behind our hunting camp, which I don't hunt at, up north. I thought there was something evil living in the woods behind that house up there. Because sometimes at night I would see golden eyes glowing in the trees and looking at me. And I'd hear these eerie, otherworldly noises that sounded like a child shrieking in the dark in the trees. And not to be indelicate, but each time I sent the dog out there to do its thing, I would go out the next day to clean up the mess, and there was nothing to clean up. And I thought to myself, what but the foulest monster would be interested in such things? But then I had my first sighting. It was a fox, a beautiful cinnamon-colored creature with a desperately hungry look in its golden eyes. He was surely gathering food for his pregnant wife, for foxes mate for life. And fox dads are very present and good parents. And the babies are born about now, in late March. I guess I will admit to you that I am reading that book because I'm hoping to make friends with this little fox. At about the middle of the book, the writer describes the sorrow she feels when the fox stops showing up for their evening visits. She finds a patch of his fur on the ground and she knows that the coyotes got him. And she grieves for him because she doesn't really have any other friends. I didn't quite believe the fox was dead because I still had half a book to go. And after a week or so of mourning for her only friend, the woman sees a smart-looking little female fox darting across her path, and she follows the female fox back to the den where there's a litter of baby foxes tumbling about and playing. The fox is not dead. His life has just taken a new turn, a new angle. He's a father and a husband now. And she says, I liked this sentence, I never need to be happier than I was the day that I found that the fox was still alive. Life is always taking new turns, isn't it? And coming back in unexpected ways. How many deaths and rebirths has it taken to make you into the person you are? We put so much faith in death. It's the one thing we really believe in. And yet, we don't really even know what death is, do we? We don't really know. Shouldn't life be the thing that we most believe in? Life, too, is a mystery, and it's one that each of us possesses. And if they set a guard against Jesus' tomb, isn't it because his enemies feared the power of his life and of all life? Life in its joys, life in its sorrows, life even in its boredom and dull routines, life in its occasional glories. Even if life is nothing more than energy. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just takes new forms. It takes a new turn. The message of the gospel is less that Jesus died for us and more that Jesus lived for us and bids us live. God in Christ participates in all the friendship and the heartbreak and the desire and the loneliness and the laughter and all the stuff of being human. How sacred these lives are. How holy they are. It's no wonder we're scared of them. We don't know how to handle them. They're mysterious, they're beautiful, they're holy, they're unpredictable. And they come back in unexpected ways. You can set a guard against life, but you might as well set a guard against the tide or the sunrise. Amen.